let's do some show and tell. Savo, thank you. We're going to start to see just all these things start to bubble up to the experience here. I am starting to share my screen. Mason, if you want to help me out there, let me know when you guys can see it.
Looking great.
Looking good? Okay, cool. Well, yeah, so I'm in the familiar desktop app here. For context, I've got my snippets. I'm in my personal Pieces repository. All the snippets that you see here are snippets that I've saved over time. I'll touch on some of these later, but I've got a shell script here just with some Python stuff. The first thing I want to share is just how do we get into the Copilot, right? I mean, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You see right here in my list view, I've got a launch Copilot button. That's going to actually trigger a whole new conversation specifically about this snippet itself. If I'm over here in my gallery view, let's say you like to use your gallery, you like to see the big snippets and lots of content all at once. It's really awesome. You've got your launch Copilot button down here. And then, of course, you've got this navigation drop down. This is sort of your source of truth. How can you get anywhere in the application, whether to a new view, back to a previous view, and so on. If you see this fourth one here, you'll see Copilot chats. That's going to take me into the Copilot chat view, and that's where we are right here. And so as I get into my chat view, you'll see a brand new UI. If you've been with Pieces for some time now, you'll notice this is a nice evolution from the previous version. We've got a new aesthetic, we've got a new layout, we've got some simplified UI elements and so on. We can talk more about that later. On the left, these are obviously my conversations. You'll notice I just got a couple of conversations here. And then on the right, this is the actual content of the conversation itself. And so you'll notice down here in the bottom left, I've got my GPT 3.5 Turbo. I can click this. I can go and access, the different models that you have available to you to be able to toggle between them, whether you want to use a cloud model via OpenAI or Palm 2, or you are a security conscious user and you're interested in using a Llama 2 on-device model. I'll share some more about that later. But let's get into it, right? So I want to create a new chat. If you're anything like me, I'm a front-end developer. I like to develop the user experience. When it comes to things like security, they're usually an afterthought for me. So I've got this really, really nice prompt here. Let's say I want to go ahead and generate some Firebase storage rules. They're super important for keeping your data locked down. It's something that I never remember how to do. It's kind of a tricky thing. I always find myself looking up how to maybe do it, but here I'm going to use the Pieces Copilot to just have him generate some code for me. So let's get into it. Help me generate a Firebase storage rule that only allows authenticated users to access a bucket. So right away, the Copilot is going to start thinking, and boom, I've got a nice, simple Firebase storage rule. I didn't really have to do much thinking about it other than the fact that I wanted a storage rule that only allows authenticated users. And we go from there. And so from here, you'll notice I've got a whole bunch of actions that I can take. Right down here towards the input, we've got suggested questions. If I want to follow up with an additional prompt. On the snippet itself, I can save that snippet to Pieces. I can share it with another member of my team, annotate code, find similar snippets, and a whole bunch more with this snippet itself. So for myself, in this case, I have a feeling that I have some other snippets that I've saved that are related to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and check out this find similar snippets action right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to use that snippet as a search query, and it's going to search through my entire Pieces repository and find me back other snippets that are related to this one. And you'll notice I've got a whole bunch of data over here. On the left, I've got all the snippets that may be related. I've got an auth users only cloud storage rule. I've got production Firebase rules, testing Firebase rules. We can click into some of these to actually view the code. Notice Firebase storage. Notice Firebase storage again. Also some if auth is not equal to null. Great. I've got some related people here on the top right. These are people that I've associated with some of these snippets that I've already saved that can assist me when I'm working towards some of these solutions. I know Mark, Savo, they've got some really great experience with Firebase cloud security. So definitely good members of my team to go and ask questions about. Sorry, I can't see the screen.
Oh, no, you're good. No,
questions, please.
I will say that is true. Like, don't let me fool you. I am the CEO, but man, I could shred some security rules. Do
Absolutely.
that, no problem.
Yep. And so, moving forward here, we've got some anchors. Anchors are files or folders that are associated, with these snippets. And so these are some folders and files, associated with snippets in my Pieces repository that may require, Firebase storage, cloud rules, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the related links. So I can click a link directly, go out to the Chrome docs. It's going to give me some information about, how do I develop these Chrome storage rules? This is the Chrome storage API, and there's a whole.
It might be semi-related, but it just depends on how much research in the browser you've been doing, around these types of related links and related materials. But we're trying to give you something, at minimum.
Exactly. So I'm going to go back into the chat there, and I've got a couple more that I want to share. Savo, Mark, Rutvik, you guys have any thoughts before I keep moving forward?
I think let's, I don't know if this is kind of planned, but definitely maybe show the grounding of the Copilot with some of the context, like the Firebase security rules website or maybe local files.
Yep. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a fresh chat here, and you'll notice down here there's this button next to the input. This is related to the conversation context. And so the context is extremely powerful here, and I'm going to go ahead and add some files to this conversation as context. I'm not sure if I want to do my widgets just yet, but I want to go and check out some APIs, specifically the Pieces OS API, and I want to go ahead and grab this AOT API. So both of these are APIs in a local project. Let's say I'm coming into the project fresh. I don't have a ton of familiarity with these, but I know that I'm going to have to use these tools to build out some of the features that I'm going to sort of impart on here soon. So I'm going to go ahead and set these as context. There's folders. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but how do I use the Pieces OS API? Let's give it a shot here.
By the way, GPT-4 has never heard of Pieces OS.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So it gave me some answers to use Pieces OS API. You need to make a post request to the API endpoint with the code snippet you want to transform as the input. The API access some small parameter. Okay, so it kind of got some information. Let's give this another try here. What can I do with the AOT API? Amazing. So with the AOT API, and the AOT API, just for reference, is an API developed, here in Pieces. It's not publicly available on the web. Nobody really has much information about it. But as I associated that file with my context, it's going to tell me all the different things that I can do with that AOT API. And so the first one, readability transformation. I can change, I can take a code snippet, I can make it more readable, templatize that snippet itself. I can take that boilerplate or that function, and I can sort of abstract it into a template. Performance transformation, taking that code snippet, I can make it more performant. And then lastly, I can take that Dart snippet, convert it to Python, TypeScript, etc. And this is actually 100% accurate. These are all the methods that I can do with that AOT API, and again, using that as context. And so if I go ahead and check out the folders here, so I can do it in this conversation, but I want to show that I can go and add a new chat. And now this fresh chat, a couple of things are happening. One, you'll notice I got a nice new summary of that previous conversation, Pieces OS API, and how we might use that. But now I've got a whole new conversation here that I'm going to have a fresh context for. And so in this case, I can go and add folders to this conversation. And in this conversation, let's say I want to not necessarily talk about APIs, but I want to talk about some Flutter widgets. And again, I might be a new developer. I'm coming in here. I'm trying to get a lay of the land, figure out what types of widgets I have available to me. I know as a Flutter developer, I'm constantly maintaining state. I'm updating the UI based on what may be happening behind the scenes, whether I'm making an async call or whatever it is. So I want to see, is there a widget that I can sort of dynamically change the media based on the state of the UI? And so let's just see here. Do I have a widget that accepts different types of media? Yes, there's a widget called Smart Image that accepts different types of media, such as SVGs, PNGs, network images, bundled assets, and more. And so a Smart Image is not a public Flutter widget. It's not out there online. It doesn't exist. If I were to go Google, what is the Smart Image Flutter widget? This is unique to our project. It has specific properties. So I can continue this and say, how do I use this? And hopefully it's going to give me an example here. And this is an exact example of using the Smart Image widget. So you see it's got a couple of properties. This value can be, you know, a local image. It could be an icon. I can customize the height and width, give it a different color, say if this is a network, and so on. And so again, this is specific to my project. It's not a publicly available thing. And I can here have a dialogue with the Copilot about that widget. Is that what you wanted to see, Saba?
That was awesome. That was so awesome. You know, I don't know too much Flutter, but I do know, you know, I do know my way around Dart like pretty well. And, you know, if I was a Dart developer trying to get into the PFX, you know, code base, I would definitely be asking a lot of questions. I'd upload the whole project.
Exactly.
But yeah, that shows the power of context though, right? You know, so I think we're going to talk a little bit more about context now. Mark is probably going to take us outside of the desktop app and into the IDEs. Mack, I didn't know if there's anything else you wanted to cap off on here, but context is definitely the takeaway, and that'll be the theme for the next couple minutes.
The context is awesome. You guys let me know. I do have one more thing that I think is extremely powerful to share.